I think that's the example leaders get to set for others. It's like, no, listen, I took a 2-hour nap the other day because I was spent.
Yeah.
And you should do that because that made me show up better for my kids, for my husband, like for myself.
Yes. I'm so excited to have this next guest on the show. Her name is Susan Crawford, and she is the founder of Meraki-inspired coaching and consultation. She is a dynamic coach, facilitator, and speaker on a mission to help people redefine happiness, success, and fulfillment on their terms so they can design a life they are passionate about. With the passion for unlocking human potential and fostering organizational excellence, Susan brings a unique blend of expertise, charisma, and insight to every endeavor. As a professional certified leadership and life coach, Susan has honed the art of empowering individuals to surpass their limitations and achieve unprecedented success. With an understanding of human behavior and a keen ability to inspire change, Susan guides clients on a journey of self-discovery and growth, helping them navigate challenges with resilience and embrace opportunities with confidence. Welcome, Susan. There we are. Oh my goodness. Here we are. We're ready to roll. Yeah. So I'm so excited to have you on the show, especially on this new YouTube channel. And I really love the work you're doing in the world. And I feel like we have a lot of similar things in common, like similar beliefs. And I love having powerful conversations to help basically anybody else that finds this to be like, oh, I can change my life. So this whole self-leadership and, we're hearing a lot of that word leadership, and maybe we could just get into it. What do you
I'd like to?
Yeah.
Oh, well, honestly, I'm so excited to have another conversation with you because for anybody who doesn't know, I met you back in 2019, I think it was, at your huge event. And that, I think, was the pinpoint of where my journey took off. That was the catalyst. It was coming home, and the magic. I know we talk about the magic, but the magic you put into the world is special, and I'm so grateful for it.
Oh,
yeah. But and to just build on that idea of self-leadership and how we are showing up in the world and what we think we have and what we don't have and the choice that we always have. I think it's just, if more people really understood where they can choose to put their energy and their attention, they would find they are more empowered than they think. And so I think that for me, the conversation is, how do I recognize my power of choice in my life, whether it's with my kids or at work, my relationships, and then how can I infuse who I am in those choices so that I stay on my track without deviating into someone else's lane or deviating into someone else's values or beliefs or expectations of me.
That is 100%. I agree with that. And I feel like somebody who's new to choices, but you don't understand, I have all these things, I have inflation, I have all these things happening. Right. And I would love to hear how you would, what you would say to that, especially in the world we're living in currently, where we feel like things are just being taken away. We don't even have to get in politics because I'm no, but I'm just no, but
yeah, everything
happening. Yeah.
Our freedom was taken away with COVID, politics aside, there's so many things. And I recognize my privilege in this. And I know not everyone has the same opportunities, but there are places in our lives where we get to choose, how do I want to approach this situation? How do I want to respond to this person? How do I want to manage my own emotions when my kid is going bonkers? And I have the option to either join them in that chaos or greet them with calm as best as I can. And I think those choices, when we realize we have them, I had a coach tell me they were the exquisite moments of choice that show up in our lives. And if we can grasp them, there's so much potential in understanding that I do have control over a lot of the things that I do, the places I go, the way that I am. but it's breaking all of those patterns and cycles and beliefs about ourselves that are getting us stuck in the idea that this has to be this way because it's always.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Like one of my pet peeves is hearing people say it is what it is. And I'm like, like, no, it's what you choose it to be. It's not what it is, or like, oh, it wasn't meant to be. And it's just like, oh dear, dear.
And sometimes life is just crap. Like sometimes it just bees that way sometimes. But a lot of the time, if what I'm learning is what you're not changing, you're choosing.
Yes.
So in those spaces where I do have control and where I do have the ability to change my behavior or my mindset or my choices, I'm actually able to choose a different path.
Yes.
And that is the most empowering thing that we can do for ourselves, is allow ourselves to choose. Like, oh, this career, my parents wanted me to be this, but that was totally out of alignment with who I am and what I wanted to do in the world. So what is my exquisite moment of choice here to create my life in a way that is fulfilling for me?
Yes, that's powerful, right? Because we have so much conditioning and this narrative, like this is how you have to do, like prom, marriage, kids, but like, you know what I mean? And then we get this promise, like, you know, you follow this path and then this is what's going to happen, but we don't understand that, or we don't, maybe you understand is not the word. I'm going to recheck myself. We don't seem to realize like life is going to life, and there's going to be other opportunities that come to us. And some of these opportunities might, quote unquote, look like a challenge, but who's to say that that challenge isn't actually the opportunity or the catalyst for your next level, you know? And you just have to push up against it sometimes.
Yeah. And I think it's that resistance that we're not comfortable with, because the resistance goes against everything we've been told, like that checklist of here are all the things you need to do to be happy and successful. Yeah. But how many of us are looking now going, okay, I did all those things. I have everything. Yeah. Something's missing. Like this can't be it. This can't be it, because I did everything I was supposed to do.
Yes. Yes.
I'm still feeling like something's missing.
Yes. Yes. I love that. And it's like, just like how you brought up about like, you know, how our parents influence us and like a society, everybody's influencing us. But on that same note, like that same trajectory, like we're at a place now in the world where we're talking more and more about like the traumas and like the childhood. I like to say childhood is like not a life sentence. Like everybody's doing the best they can. And like, like, you know, I've done a lot of like healing work, even regarding those who raised me, you know, my family and like the other adult, like, you know, talk about school. And, you know, it's not just the parents that are influencing young minds, right? And so like, on that same note, our young minds, they're not developed yet and they don't have the capacity. So it's like, there's so much happening. And like on that whole narrative, we spoke about like, you know, that generational trauma and the healing and how do you lead yourself through that even without wanting to put blame on, well, I'm like this because of you.
Right. And then that's the story I carry throughout my life. And then resentment, the anger, the frustration of not being able to have your life be yours because it's tethered to the people before you. Yeah. And I was sharing with a friend this morning around like when we look at our mothers and what they experienced, there's almost like there's a sadness and there's a deeper understanding of, you know, they didn't have social media to say, hey, what you're experiencing is perimenopause. This is why you are the way you are right now. And there's a legit reason.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Right. Your parents or, you know, your parents also had trauma that they passed on to you. So when we can look at our previous generations with a little bit of compassion, it allows us to see ourselves in through that compassionate lens as well, because it's hard. Like life is hard. Raising kids is hard. And we're healing as we're teaching and unlearning as we're growing. And there's no space to really even do it because you got to go to work. You got to still have all the responsibilities and do all the things you're supposed to do. Yeah. But there's so much internally like churning that it's hard to really understand like the impact of trauma, all types of trauma from school, from family, culture, society. That's like, if you're raising little humans, it's like, oh my gosh, like I set aside the therapy fund now or?
Yeah. I tell my kids all the time, I'm trying not to mess you up.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're figuring it out.
Yes.
There's no handbook on this.
Exactly. And like, but I think what you're saying and what I agree with that is so much is like the power that we hold on our shoulders. We're like the generational breakers. We're like the generational breakers. And so we are the ones that are like, if we do this deeper work, we can liberate those that came before us because they did the best they could. Like I have a strong belief that everything makes sense. You might not agree with it, but everything makes sense if you can understand how somebody got to that place, right? And you just mentioned like perimenopause, like as we're going through this journey, like I'm like, am I crazy right now? Like, so now I'm like, oh mom, like, I can see so much.
I see you.
It's like, oh my God. And it's just like, you get to this point where it's like, I can do this deep work and liberate you. And then I'm doing something different for those coming after me. And it's all on our shoulders. It's hard to be a human sometimes.
Absolutely. And it's funny, I saw a meme the other day that said, like Disney is really at us with like turning red, with Encanto, with like hitting at the generational traumas and just putting it out there being like, hey, you're no different. We've all got it. Mm-hmm. And acknowledging that and being with it, because this isn't easy work. Like if someone said, hey, do you want to go explore your generational trauma, or do you want to just live in the ignorant abyss? Like most of us probably would be like, you know what, I'll go on my merry way, but this is the work that needs to be done so that our generations forward and back are healed.
Yes. And I find like a lot of us got put in that forced into this growth, right? Because you have options, you can choose. But some of us get forced into it. And I feel like the pandemic really just, I know for myself, I was spiraling out in post-traumatic stress response, trying to like save everybody and realizing that, that's my own trauma response. And, I need to do deeper work here. Which I'm really grateful for that I was able to, and do that work. It wasn't always. Trust me, it's not fun. Again,
not for the faint of heart, that's for sure.
It is. It's like, I could have done without, but I see myself now, and I'm like, wow, okay, I've done a lot, and we're going to continue. And I used to always say like I'm on a healing journey, and now I've even switched that to be like, we're not broken, we're just getting realigned. So now it's more like I'm on a growth journey. So it's just like I'm just realigning. Growing, like growing's not pleasant. You look at a seed split open like that, can't feel good.
It doesn't feel nice. And something good comes of it. It's just the process of it. It can be really grueling. And clients I work with, it's like, this is uncomfortable. I don't like this. They'll ghost for a while. It's like, because when you dump out Pandora's box and you look and see how you got to where you are, it's not always nice. And it's not always what you wanted it to be. Yeah. Right. Some of us have this like view of how our lives should have been. Well, look at social media. There is a standard. Look at, when we compare to our peers, there is a standard, but it doesn't mean that has to be your standard. Oh. That's where you need to understand, like, who am I? What's important to me? And how do I use that information to show up in the world in the most authentic way?
Yeah. Yeah. Even just the social media stuff, like, oh my gosh. It's like the highlighted reels. It's like we're showing just like the really, curated stuff, but like life's not curated.
Oh my God. If you saw my floor right now, it's not curated. Like from here up, it's curated.
Like same. Like, just like we were saying, like we're business on top. Like we got like our jogging pants on because this is it. That's right. But just even understanding, and then the gift in that with the social media is like, we've come to understand certain things that we were never really taught, like that's where I dove deeper into like the emotional intelligence, the self-leadership, the relational intelligence. Now I'm on the journey of perimenopause. Like, represent. Hey. But so it's just like, how do you navigate like within that and still stay solid within yourself? You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
It's even for us, like we do this deep work and we could still find ourselves like, hey, wait a second. Like where are my values?
Yeah, right. There, I will deviate every so often and go into a spiral, and I'll have a friend that says, okay, first of all, what time of the month is it for you?
Yes.
And is this a now thing, right? It's like, oh, okay, I see the pattern. Yeah. Now I need to try to change my scheduling and change how I'm thinking about certain things, conversations I have and shouldn't have, you know?
I know.
If we're going to be real, that's pretty much what it is. It's not a good time for this conversation.
Yeah, I want to blow my business up and my life up like every little phase. I'm just like, I want to run away.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, just like
go wrong.
Then it's like, oh, wait a second. Wait a few more days.
Yeah. Sleep on it.
Yeah, drink your water, have a nice nap.
Yeah, exactly. But we don't even give ourselves permission to do that. Like to just step back, recognize how our bodies are influencing our thoughts and our behaviors. Like there's no space to even acknowledge, like, what are you going to tell your boss? Sorry, I'm in my phase right now. I just need to like cocoon so that I can be in the right headspace.
Yeah. There's
no space to just pause, rest.
Yeah, this is so true. And like, even just like, we take it deeper for like when we're in roles of like leadership, guiding our clients and leading our programs and giving our talks and all the things. And I saw something, it said something like leaders tend to have so much in the background that nobody will ever know. And we just hold it all together and we show up and we pour and then, and it's to really realize like, oh, being a leader doesn't mean you don't also sometimes give yourself that grace, like
you have to.
Oh, well, yeah.
I think that's the example leaders get to set for others. It's like, no, listen, I took a 2-hour nap the other day because I was spent.
Yeah.
And you should do that because that made me show up better for my kids, for my husband, like for myself.
Yes.
So why is that not okay?
Yeah, exactly. Like, these are the questions we need to be asking ourselves. Like, why is this not okay? Like, under whose standard? Like, who, like, we try to compare ourselves to the things. And oh man, I got that like late. I was raised with like, don't take a nap. It's lazy. So now when I take, I'm like, I'm resting, and lazy is a phase and it's beautiful. Like, it doesn't mean it doesn't identify who I am as a person, Like,
exactly. I was a waitress for 8 years, and when there's time to lean, there's time to clean. And now I hear that and I'm like, oh my gosh, no, there's just a lull in service. And that's where you go have your water. That's where you go grab a bun so you have your energy for the next round. Yeah. It's been vilified to rest, to stop, to pause, again, because of that old programming of it's lazy, you should be doing something else.
Yes.
But look where it got us, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This whole hustle burnout culture.
Yes. And I feel like we're still kind of like playing with that, because even those who are like, let's say on their social medias and creating content, those content creators, that push for like, come on, get the content out, get the content. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't play that game. Like I did it. And I realized, whoa, this is not authentic. And I don't want to. Like,
it's a scary thing. I like how you bring that up, because it's a scary thing watching the constant push of content creation. And then I wonder, like, how are you? Like, because there's a persona that comes up when you facilitate, when you train, when you talk, there's a persona of yourself that goes up. Hopefully it's authentic. Yes. But for the content creation and that constant churn, I wonder, like, are you okay? Like you feel like you might have to do this, but where's the grace? Where's the space? Then if you don't have that, what's the cost? Like this overconsumption at an individual's like humanity.
Yeah.
Like, that's so sad. I don't like social media. Like I realized last time I had posted was January, and I'm like, oh, I should probably get on that, because I'm not called to it. It's not
And like the overconsumption, like when we talk about that, it's even just for those consuming, and then they wonder why they feel like pieces of crap, or like why they're not quote unquote enough, or that whole comparison. Well, do a detox. Like I'm really big on telling my clients, when was the last time you did a detox? I'm not talking about like a diet detox. I'm talking about like get off the phone. Like turn it off. Like
turn it all off. Because here's the thing, is as much as we grow from learning and talking about perimenopause and generational trauma, it's great. But then what's the barrier that doesn't stop us from spiraling down to, oh my God, that was my life. If this is my life, what am I going to do? And I'm just absorbing all of this like helplessness. Like, I
Yes.
think it's also feeding this sense of helplessness, which then removes me farther from my choice, which could be to just turn it off, to just say, I need some support, whatever that is.
Yes. I really love how you just worded that. I just like had this whole like, it's just like that whole like, it's like a distraction, right? And avoiding isn't the same as processing. So if you like, it's like, yes, use it as the tool like it was meant to. Find what you need, but then don't like go spiral out and like just jump through all the hoops and just, because then what you do is everything becomes conflicting. It's like I've had
Yes.
conversations with Mark about like, oh, we can't have this, or we shouldn't eat this, or we shouldn't do. And it's like, oh my God, we're already dying. Like, let's stop.
The air we breathe is polluted.
So it's like, what do we have control over right now? And like, let's not just spiral out, because what does that do? That kind of frazzled energy doesn't keep you in your power.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like circumstantial power. It's not innate power. And it's like, no, like,
yeah. And I think healing is not going through TikToks going, yep, that's me. That's me. That's not healing. You're not doing the work. You're absorbing, but you're not doing the work. Like
you're causing more harm, essentially, is what that is, that overconsumption.
Yeah, you're filling up on that negativity or that recognition, but it has to process somewhere and come out of your body and out of your mind so that you can have space to reconfigure and rewire all of those parts of you that may have been affected by the gamut of things that make us human.
Yeah, exactly. And how, coming back to that choice, like you said, like that moment of choice, how powerful to be like, wait a second, here I am. I saw that one meme where it was like, have you gone outside today? No. Have you had some water today? No. Have you moved your body today? No.
Nope.
But I wonder why I feel like shit. It's like,
why do I feel like crap all the time? I don't understand. Let me unwrap another chocolate bar at my desk and be like, why do I feel like shit?
It's just like, no. Oh my gosh, that moment of choice is so powerful. And it's to catch yourself in it, because again, we're just subconscious memory. We're just always, doing the same things over and over until we see ourselves in it. When you can see the pattern and see yourself in the pattern, then the pattern begins to change. So instead of being like, oh my God, I'm doing it again, what's wrong with me? Be like, oh, I'm doing it again. Cool. How did I get here?
Good to notice. Yay, me.
What am I going to do next? What gets to change in this, instead of like slashing all your tires because, you have
exactly. All this totally wrecked my day or totally derailed my day. Or, oh, I wonder how I can practice resilience, or I wonder how I can shift my perspective, or, maybe if I did get stuck in traffic, I missed an accident up ahead. Like one of those mindset pieces is, what's the gift? What's the opportunity? It may be hard to find, but chances are, if you can find it, it makes whatever is here and feeling like crap a little softer.
Yes. Yeah. Then you can get to your acceptance and move on. I really love that. Yeah. It's that moment. That's like that split. Like we're always one decision away from having a completely different life. Just because you did something the same way forever, you can change it. That's not like somebody put a post on Facebook about like, realizing a lot of the behaviors and things. And a lot of people were like, oh, but you're still a good person. And I just chimed in saying like, people are not their behaviors. Like, that's not your identity. Oh. So yes, it's like one doesn't take away from the other. Yes, you're a good person, and those were behaviors, and none of that is your identity. Like, you get to change. That's second, like
exactly. And even when we talk about emotional intelligence, you are not the emotion, you're feeling the emotion. Now, what data does that emotion hold, and how can you use that to make a decision? From a responsive versus a reactive place.
Yes. Instead of like making a decision based on the emotional state that you're in, like the luteal phase, like don't make decisions.
Exactly. I chatted with a client yesterday, and she was right up and like at the peak of rage. And I was like, okay, hold on a second. Like, what is fueling the rage? Like, what value is being challenged? What is making you angry? And now step back from it for a second. Like, do you want to respond from that place, or do you need a minute just to settle that nervous system back down because it's in the fight, flight, or freeze state? Okay, now message this morning. Thanks so much for the chat. I approached it totally differently than I would have. Yeah, because we're reactive beings. That's our nature. Yeah. We have to process and be responsive so that we're not flying off the handle every time something doesn't go our way.
Yes. because we're part of the animal kingdom, but we have logic and reasoning.
Yes, thank goodness for some,
Yeah. So like the reactive stuff is like, no, we need to calm down. And that's where you tap into your leadership. You take that breath and then you decide, right? One of the big things for me that I like to try to tap into as much as humanly possible, like if I am in this state of, because I mean, we're human, we're gonna, I ask myself, like, if the future version of me looks back at this one moment, what would she say? Like, would she be like, damn girl, yeah? Or would she be like, what in the name of all things holy were you thinking? Right? It's just really like having that moment to try. It's that pause, right? Like I like taking the breath and having a moment to be like, okay. This is not,
okay, I see what's happening.
We think that it's, it'll feel good in the moment. Yeah, but will it feel good in the future? And
I think that's amazing.
Yeah, because some people, it's true. Like, especially I'm assuming like the pandemic, it just frazzled a lot of us, and we didn't have like that output. And I think that this is now, because what I've noticed, and you could tell me if you've seen this, even when you call like agencies, or like I had to call CRA, and they always have this prompt now at the beginning, say verbal abuse will no longer be tolerated. This is everywhere. And I'm like, this wasn't a thing before. This is not in Canada. Like, this was not a thing before. I don't know if that's in anybody else's country, but it wasn't in ours. But now since the pandemic, I feel like people are just frazzled. And so it's to get to that moment of like taking the breath to be like, okay, like, because it's fun to be like, oh, I want to flip somebody off on the internet. Mm-hmm. It's like, what if you have to be in a relation in some capacity in the near future? Will you enjoy that? Like,
exactly. And I think you're speaking to like this collective burnout. Mm-hmm. The hyper responsive nervous systems that have not come down from that peak of fear, of pressure, of, oh my God, what's going to happen? We're still here, and 4 years out, maybe we're sort of coming down that peak, but there's so much that has been unprocessed.
Yes.
Like business as usual.
Yeah. We just
talk about it. It's over.
Yeah.
How?
Like I feel so, oh man. Yeah. I like when I returned to work, it was a lot of my colleagues were sharing like how exhausted they were, and they didn't understand why. Your nervous system is shot. Like we need to practice, that self-care, that nervous system care, and get yourself back to a state of flexibility and adaptability. Mm-hmm. Turn your phone off, turn off your notifications, like all of
like every ding that, makes us cringe a little bit. It's all of those things because we haven't processed that global experience.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That's going to be trauma passed on. Yes. Because we have not, have we talked to our kids about it? Like, why are you feeling a little extra hypervigilant? Why are you feeling a little bit more anxious? Is it because for a solid 2.5 years, we said you can't go near anybody because you might die? Like, there's stuff that needs to be spoken and experiences that need to be shared that there's no space to do because, bottom line, we gotta keep moving forward. Yeah. But we know that you can't. You can't. You can't. It doesn't work. We humans don't work that way. Yeah. And so that humanity piece is, how do we understand that we are humans in roles as parents, as, office workers, as leaders, as whatever? We're still human, bottom line.
Yes.
We have to start there.
Yes.
And sometimes those leaders are the ones who are also struggling because they're wearing the mask of, I have to have my shit together.
Show. Yeah. Where it's
I can't struggle.
Yeah. And I think that getting back to that that common humanity, that piece of like the compassion and curiosity and like the gentleness and the kindness, and that is where we're going to start shifting things. And by being the role models, like you said, you taking naps, and telling other people, when people I don't do it all. I ask for support and I discern what needs to be done by me and when it needs to be done. And I don't fill up my days, like I used to with the never ending to-do list. That's why I invented the 120 method, but it's just stop. What are we trying to prove? What are we trying to prove? And to who? Yeah.
There's no medal at the end of life that says, hey, way to not take a break, way to burn yourself out, way to, hold in all your emotions. We don't get rewarded for that. We break relationships, we break ourselves, but we don't get rewarded for that. So it's like, I'm done. I'm so done.
Exactly. And so like that comes back to the self-leadership, because I've given talks on leadership and people are like, oh, a leader is somebody in this high position. And it's like, actually, you are the leader of your life. Like you're the main character in your life. So from a place of like being selfish and like, although like we can even talk about selfishness, because I think that is, was also a condition that was made to be bad, like, don't be so, that was one of my things, like people would tell in my family, don't be so selfish, Crystal. And now I'm like, wow, that just means taking space for you, obviously think about other people, right? And like how
don't do harm,
don't cause any harm, but like, it's so important because that you're leading yourself in your life and your energy impacts, energy, the strongest energy wins. Well, I want it to be clean energy. Like I want it to be kind energy, empowering energy,
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that feeds that's contagious. And when you feel the opposite, you can tell when you've been working on yourself, it's like, we need to have some boundary here because I don't like what you're giving off and I don't want it.
Yeah.
It's just such a different way of being, such a different way of living.
Yes. And I feel by doing this work, then like we said, we're passing it on to the generations, and then they're going to take it and they're going to make something different with it. And that's just evolution. But I think it's being open to the growth, because either you're ripe and rotting or you're green and growing. And like, I would rather be green and growing, like, I know all the things. I just want to be always open to learning something new, but without over consuming, obviously having the boundary of,
it's just as you said that, what comes up for me was a conversation I had around like this whole like idea of treat yourself, right? I'm part of the treat yourself generation. But when I dig into that around like, why is it that I want to surround myself with cute things that are fun and playful? I look back generationally and say, oh, these are probably the things that I didn't get as a kid. And now that I have control and my own money, I am nurturing that inner child.
Yeah.
But back to like being selfish and, making choices. It's like, if I'm not doing my healing and I don't realize that my treat yourself mentality is rooted in what I felt was unfair or not available or not possible at the time, that's work for me to get curious about. That's work for me to unpack. So that I don't dive into this like, well, now I'm in debt because I treated myself a little bit too much in excess. But both are healing, but one is going to move me forward.
Yes. Because a lot of the self-care movement is actually self-soothing. So we need to understand like,
there's a difference.
Yeah, there's a huge difference. So am I like really like, like you said, going into debt and this whole excess, like I feel like there's so much excess, like there's overconsumption, there's all the things. So then it's like, is this moving me forward? Am I truly self-caring, or is this just like a self-soothing? And if it's a self-soothing, okay, but is there something different that I can do? Instead of like throwing a card up on an online card.
Yeah, it's like, am I drinking? Am I eating? Am I doing drugs? Or am I buying cute stationery? Both may help me feel better in the moment, but long-term may not serve me.
Yes.
And so I like how you differentiate, is it self-care or self-soothing? Because I feel like those two are really different.
Yeah.
And
just even in this conversation, right? Like anybody listening to this, like put it in the comments, like what do you feel when it comes to self-leadership? Like, what do you feel that you're trying to do, because self-leadership is even just in that pause of like, what comes next? That, what did you call it? The moment.
Exquisite moments of choice.
Exquisite moments of choice. Yeah. Like in this pause, you can have an exquisite moment of choice, and like you get to decide. Your life will change on one decision, guaranteed. We're always one decision away from a different life, and I think these kinds of conversations are so powerful, and they're healing, and they're growth promoting, right? Growth and evolution.
Absolutely. If it plants a seed in somebody, say, oh, maybe I need to get curious about this thing that I've been always doing and not necessarily been satisfied or fulfilled by it, how can it change? Then I feel like we've done our job, because it's these conversations that aren't trying to fix anything, but just piquing curiosity.
Yes.
What does this look like for me? How does this show up for me? What is the impact it has on my life? And what do I want to do with it, if anything?
Yeah. I like the if anything, because just because you had the thought doesn't mean you have to act on it. And if you can let it simmer for a little bit and come back to it, or, I like that, because again, that could be just impulsive and like reactive to like, oh,
I am an impulsive person. The impulsivity in my emotional intelligence is present, and a little neurodivergent, it's present. The impulsivity is the thing that I have constantly been working on. It's like, okay, if not now, I can step back, see how I feel. And human design as well. That's like generator energy. It's like, do I feel it? Yeah. Is it there? And just paying attention to all those little nuances that make me the way I am.
Yeah.
It's given me so much more clarity in those moments of choice to say, is this aligned? Is this what I want? Is this what I want? Yeah. What other influences are impacting this decision?
Yes. Yeah. And then just basically that, like, that makes you a leader, like, and that's, you grow from that, and knowing that you can pivot at any one time. I think that's a really important thing too. Some people think I've always been like this. I've always thought like this. Is that no, like, growth is being able to hold so many different perspectives. Yeah. And like, you get to choose from or neither, and not make it mean anything. Like, I'm really bad. Don't mean anything, please, because usually we'll make it mean negativity, and we're just that cognitive bias we have, that negative cognitive bias we have, and it's like, no, this is not serving us.
Yep. You don't have to create a story around it. You can just notice it and be like, oh, okay, this was a fleeting thought or a fleeting, okay.
Yeah.
If it comes up again, you get curious about it again and say, well, is there something here to look deeper into or not?
Yes. Yes.
Hey. But yeah, it's that little pivot that allows us to see things just a little bit differently than where our focus has maybe traditionally or always been. So how do we just pivot a little bit to see what else is possible? Yeah.
And I think it's important to know too, because people, when they want to change their lives, they want to go big or go home. That's not a thing. But it's in those little minute, like, literally, like, it's like those little shifts, they will change trajectory for your life, and you just keep playing. And when you catch yourself back doing something you've always done, because we're nothing more than muscle memory.
Cool, yeah.
You go like, hey, here I am again. How did I get here? What can I do different? Instead of beating yourself up, because that just perpetuates the cycle,
Yeah, I think that's a big piece. It's like, I've been in coaching for 6 years, and every time I'm like, ooh, milestone, nailed it. Okay, let's move on to something else. Like, months down the road, I'll be right back going, I thought I fixed this. Like, I thought I did this work already. Why am I back? But because there's always a different, like, aspect of the lesson to learn, like almost like a gem. There's always another face of the same lesson to learn that may just not be complete in that moment. It's showing up differently. So it's okay to come back to, do some more work, and continue on.
Yes. It's like a practice too, right? Just like in school, we had tests. The universe is like, hey,
I'm back
for this. You're ready for this? It's pop quiz. Like,
let's see what you've learned. It's like, dang it.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. And it's sometimes it's about making light of it if you can in any moment, right? Because if you're in this stuck energy, like, you can't see anything. So take a step back. I love using
I can't flow from that hard place, for sure.
Yeah.
With the one-on-one coaching, it's conversations like this, the typically the women who are in their 40s, who are at that point with, their families or their life going,
this is it. Is this it?
This can't be it.
This can't be it, right? Please tell me this can't be it.
Yeah, that transition point of like, okay, for the next 40 years, what do I want my life to look like? And I want to enjoy it. With the emotional intelligence work, it's helping leaders and teams really function better, understanding that our emotions have a place at work and how we use them and express them can actually be really beneficial for the relationships. And so that is an important part of how we relate, because it also impacts how we relate outside of work. And then the leadership piece, I'm really feeling my call right now is to not so much redefine, but really re-examine what we define as leaders. And we've been talking about this. Self-leadership, I would never have seen myself as a leader because I didn't hold a title. But there are so many ways we lead ourselves, our families, our children, in our relationships, by the choices we make, by who we are. And I think that is really the catalyst for my work going forward. It's how do we bring humanity back into leadership in all of its facets, and understanding that how I show up at work shouldn't be different than how I show up with my spouse or my kids or my friends. Like, I'm a consistent person that doesn't have to mask, that doesn't need to perform. I'm just going to go do what I do and cultivate the relationships and take care of people, because we're all here together so that we can all just live peacefully. Like, just life is already hard enough. Can we just, I don't even know what the word is, but can we just, like, can we just thrive a little bit? Like, we've been surviving literally. Oh, yeah. Can we just thrive a bit and see how that feels?
Yeah, we need a break. We
just take the break. And it's not a week vacation. I have clients that are like, they'll just take a week off. I'm like, that's not going to fix it. You've been in here.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, the week isn't going to, maybe the week will be like, wow, I can breathe. But your nervous system, your, like, all that stuff is still,
it's still there. Yeah.
And
yeah, you need to just, yeah. And I think a lot of people think that they need to get their nervous system to a state of, like, where it's just constantly calm, and that's not a thing. It's like, it'll never be a thing unless you die. But it's just like,
it's ride the wave. Like, we're constantly on the wave.
Yes. You know, and it's like, what do you attach meaning to? Like, what are you making things mean? That's so powerful. Like, what is the story around it? You know, because disappointment and grief and all of that stuff is going to happen in life. But it's what have you attached to that? It's the story you attach to that, you know, that makes it more hard or makes it harder to overcome, or it's that story, you know, and it's like,
that reminds me of, like, when you're purging, like, I've been working with my mom to purge stuff. And, like, when you purge things that have belonged to other people, there's an attachment. And it's almost like, what's the story around the attachment? Is it that it belonged to the person, the memories it holds? Like, what is it? Because at the end of the day, these are things. Like, we're surrounded by things that if we had meaning that's attached to those stories. And once we peel all that apart, if there's still something important there for you, awesome.
Yeah.
But if there's not, like, release, surrender, let go of, create that space, like mental, emotional, physical space, so that you can do the things, make the choices without the clutter, you know, without the noise.
Yes. Yes. And that is powerful just in that. It's like, and it's a process. It's not a little one and done. It is a process. You know?
Absolutely.
That's the deep work. It's what we're here for. You know, we didn't come here to just not grow. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't even want to say live and die. It's like exist and die. Because if you're not living, like, living is doing the work and getting to the point where when you look back and go, holy cow, look at how far I've come.
Yeah.
Like, look what I did, not in accomplishments, but like, look how I've changed.
Yes, like, look what a masterpiece I created of my life, you know, not of, like, accumulating the things, but, like, the relationships I held and the person I was. And that's what I want. It's just like, oh, yeah.
I'm my Mona Lisa. I love that. The masterpiece. Like, I am the masterpiece that I am creating. And the work that I do is a frame. It's an add-on. It's nice to have, but my expression of me is
it's the gift,
legacy, right? Yeah.
It's the legacy. And that's what people are going to remember you by, you know, and because we can think about people who were like just miserable and you're like, oh, but they,
Later.
yeah, see you later. But again, it makes sense for why they were, if we can understand what brought them there. And, like we said, the generations before us, they were never taught about emotional intelligence and stuff. They didn't have
No.
you sweep shit under the rug and you look somewhere else. Like,
yeah. And that worked. Like, have we not learned like there's work to be done?
Yeah.
And there are people like you, like myself, and like tons of others who can help you through that.
Yeah.
I don't believe you can do it alone. I don't believe this is something you will only take yourself as far as you're comfortable to go. You need someone to help you step over that threshold of comfort to get deep into it so that you can see what's beyond that.
Yes.
But I don't think it's something we can do alone.
No, because what you're going to do is you're going to just keep going back to where you've always been and keep getting
there.
Definition of insanity, right? So you're not, and it's like I like to tell some of my friends, you're too pretty for that. Like you're too pretty for insanity. No.
Yeah, I love that.
Like do the work, just do the work, but you have to do it with guidance, support, like, somebody who's already walked the path and who can show you like the map, and ask the deeper questions that you probably don't want to ask yourself.
Yeah. I always find when I sit with my coach and she asks me a question, I'm like, that's a good question. Because those are the ones that like get right to, it's like, okay, we're going there. All right. That was a good question. That was a good one.
Yeah. Because we can't see our shadow, stand outside, try to see your shadow. Like you can't see a full shadow. You might see something, but it's like, you don't see it.
Just chasing yourself.
Yeah. But having somebody to support you, they see the shadow and they can help you through it. That's how we do it. Like,
Yeah, exactly. And it reminds me of a session that I was in. We have the leader within, we have leaders beside, we have leaders in front, and we have leaders behind, and then we have leaders in the field. That's a coactive leadership model. For me, understanding that my leadership can take on different dimensions for myself, for others. It's like, wow. So for my kids, I'm a leader beside at times. I'm a leader behind at times. I'm in front at times. Like, it's just so much more dynamic when you think of leadership beyond this is my title as leader. It's a behavior, it's a practice, it's a mindset, it's how you operate from your values, and then like bring people along who can have a powerful impact in the world with you.
Yes. Beyond leadership. I love that. And I love, like, I just saw it in my mind, like how you positioned it.
Yeah. The dynamic and the dimensions are just so fitting, just so fitting for what I think leadership could become. Yes,
because I truly believe we can all learn from each other. Like I'm a student of life for life, and we can learn so much from each other when we're open, It's just like sometimes messy conversations like, are you open to another perspective? No. Okay, cool. I'm just going to take this energy.
All right.
On there.
I'm talking for later.
Yeah. I'll try again next time. Leave a message after the beep. No, just kidding.
Yeah. It's like, I'll revisit. Okay. Fair.
But it's such a powerful way to, like, when you explain it, it's just like, oh, that makes so much more sense. Like it just ties it in beautiful.
It's less lonely knowing that I can call you and say, hey, Crystal, I need some leadership beside. Like, am I seeing this properly? Like, what are you seeing out there? How are you hearing my words and how are they landing? Like, to ask for help, I think, is one of the biggest leadership potential misses, but opportunities.
Yeah.
Just ask for help.
Yes. Yeah. I have so much respect for somebody who is able to do that, because then it shows their humanity, right? It's like, oh, you're human. You're not a robot. Like,
And because of that, you won't treat me like another cog in the wheel.
Yes.
Because you see your humanity and that vulnerability and that authenticity, you will also see mine. And you will be gentle with me as I navigate all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So you're right. If you can see it in yourself, you're much more able to see it in others.
Oh, I love that. What a great conversation. Now is probably such a great time so people can come check you out. Susan, where are we sending people to go look for you?
Oh, you can go to the socials. Yeah, you can find me under my name, Meraki Inspired. You can visit the website, merakiinspired.com. I'm pretty much, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, not on TikTok, but that's okay. But reach out if this resonated. Reach out. I want to see the comments that came up for people in our conversation, because I think we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, we just like talked a little bit about neurodivergency.
Yeah, it's like this is basically it. It's like, how many things can we touch on? Oh my goodness.
It was such a great conversation. And yeah, totally. We'll put everything in the show notes and like let us know what topic really which part of our topics sparked for you, and how you view yourself as a leader. Like, did you view yourself as a leader, and are you going to now see yourself differently because you are self-led, like you are leading, and the power of choice, right? Those exquisite moments of choice, yes. They're always available. Always. Yep. From the simplest thing of like, do I really want, to eat a cheeseburger, or do I want, you know what I mean? Like, let's not.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere. Do I need to turn my notifications off? Do I need to get a glass of water? They're everywhere. And I find when you can laugh at those really simple ones, yeah, it can make you that much more aware of the big ones. Like, oh, this is a big choice, but those small ones are practice. They're the habit builders.
Yes, 100%. Well, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Energy. You're so amazing, Susan.
Oh, thank you. Likewise. Until we do it again.
Yes, for sure. Get you back over here in Kapuskasing.
Yes.